Morning. Hello.
Hi, Santiago. How are you?
How are you, John?
Yes,
Amazing. Great to meet you. Thank
likewise.
you. I think it's 11 a.m. Over there, right?
Exactly.
Yes. How is it going? I mean, how's the first things first? I know that I've been talking to different people in the U.S., and I know that depends on the state. The situation is quite different. Are you doing okay? Is your neighborhood doing fine? Considering this overwhelming situation that we don't even need to specify about.
Well, I've been in isolation
Hmm.
for 2 months now,
Yeah,
and but I'm still working in the studio. I get files in over the internet,
yeah.
send the mixes out over the internet, and then get paid via PayPal.
Well, being a music producer is like living and working in a bunker anyway, right? In
Yes,
some
it
level.
is. I have an apartment in my studio.
That's good. That's good. And well, I'm glad for you then. Is this kind of timing? I mean, do you live it in a more different way, or do you find like this lockdown to be motivating, or it's like more? Do you live it in some other way? Are you having some difficulties? Do you have some anxiety about what's happening outside?
Yes, I do have some anxiety, but I'm locked down. I don't go out.
Hmm.
A friend took me to the grocery store yesterday.
Yeah,
We wore masks and gloves,
yeah.
so it's precautionary.
And creatively, do you live it differently, or creatively it can be a a boost at some level?
Say that again?
Do you live? Do you go through this like in a in I mean in creative terms, like as a sort of boost, because you have to be inside and you can find excuses to get to be outside, or sometimes the situation and the pressure of what's going out outside can be as a difficulty to create.
No, it's been wonderful because I can concentrate on nothing but the studio.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Oh, I'm, I'm glad for you then. And I've been I've been investigating a little bit because I remember that years and years ago I listened over and over Blue Bob over and over, and
Uh,
I always had I was in touch with their music mostly because of you, because of that album. I mean, and and I realized that I didn't know that much about you, so I started like stalking some videos and some in previous interviews. So in a way, I didn't get you like too uh, bored about talking the same things that you talk over and over in the conventions and to other fanboys. So I was wondering, like, I noticed that you started like very early age. You started playing the guitar at 15. I mean, you started recording an album at 15, and from there you started working and living professionally, and
yes.
from there you started like living a life already as a music producer in 1970s, and having working for studios and then creating your own studios. I realized that there's a great deal of freedom. Was it always that way, or you always aimed to that freedom?
Well, no, it's always been that way. I actually made my first record at 14 in 1965,
Yeah.
and made another one in 67. My first album in 1969.
What kind of
And
music was it? I'm sorry, because it was it like a rock and roll, or like you were
it was all rock and roll.
was
And my first
you were
record, The Ascots, is a cult classic today.
oh
It trades for $1,000.
damn. Well, it's like a kind of rockabilly kind of thing, or it's like more
No,
like a
it's
Beatles
garage
jazz.
rock.
Uh-huh. Nice. Like hard rock, like in the same sound as for example the Viscounts. Kind of like you feel like the you feel the drums and the hard guitars
No,
and
it's a pop song, and
uh
it's got some qualities of surf music in it.
oh, nice. So it was quite for the a product of its time. Was it
Yes.
was it very kind of successful for its time? I mean, it pushed you to start a career, so it must have been like kind of was it on the charts?
Yes, just regionally, but and then we got a job opening for the Turtles on their Happy Together tour, and we were all in ninth grade.
Mm. So it must have been. I mean, the best part of that is it wasn't. I mean, at the moment you didn't experience it as okay, I'm starting my life professionally. You were going through stardom in school, so it was kind of
Yeah,
that was fantastic. That must have been the best. And
it was really a good time.
yeah, I'm sure it was. And I was wondering, so I mean, there was a moment where you were having a studio in Maui, in Hawaii,
Hmm.
maybe I don't know, in Hawaiian mountains, probably next to a volcano. Who knows?
Yes, we were 2,500 feet up on the mountain,
Why?
uh, not far from where the 1790 eruption occurred. I had the studio with Walter Becker of Steely Dan, and we made some really good albums there.
Wow. You actually produced for Willie Nelson, right?
Yes, Willie borrowed my guitar. I loaned him my guitar while his was seized by the IRS, and we made a record together. And then he had my guitar for about 6 months till he got his back. And when he returned it, I had him sign it. So I've got an autographed Martin guitar from Willie Nelson.
But you also have a lot of Willie Nelson cells printed on that guitar as well.
Yeah, yes.
Oh man. But something happened there and you decided to leave that place, and from there you decided to move to Phoenix, and because I don't know, I mean, what brought you to Maui at the first place? Why Maui? It was like, is it like this kind of, I mean, I know that there's like some kind of urban legends about music producers where they always try to build their music producing house whatever is this I mean, wherever they find like the purest silence. Was it something about that, or why? I mean, it's very strange.
Well, I married a girl
Oh.
in 1979 whose family lived in Maui,
Uh-huh.
and we went there for our honeymoon for 2 weeks, came back and said, what the hell are we doing here? Sold everything and moved to Hawaii. And I had just finished touring, and she didn't want me to tour anymore. I had to give that up.
Mm-hmm.
But so I got into radio in Maui and had a 9-year morning radio show, and got to learn about all the Hawaiian artists. And the Maui artists didn't have records out. All the records that were being played on the radio were from Honolulu and the Big Island. So I built a small studio and started a Hawaiian record label and released 26 albums on Maui artists.
That is wow. And the Hawaiian sound. Did you find like something that you couldn't find in some other place on the planet, or like is there anything that makes the Maui sound like different from others?
Yes, it's slack key guitar and a lot of falsetto singing,
Uh-huh.
and very beautiful, very calming music.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And going back to your roots, what would you say nowadays that your real, because when you're like 20 or 15, you're 20 something, you have your own ideas of what are your real influences. By now, being at your age, you look back into the day, what was your real influence that you say like, if I haven't listened to this today, I will be doing something very different?
Well, I had two older brothers, and they were both big fans of Elvis, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Chuck Berry. And
That's
so I had that music in the house. And when I got a guitar in 1961, um, I learned Chuck Berry songs.
mm-hmm.
And then surf music came out. So
Yeah.
I learned Dick Dale songs and Beach Boys songs. And so that was my earliest influence. That was before the Beatles.
And I mean, like Beach Boys were like the good guys, but I mean, rock and roll in the early '50s probably got you into trouble, maybe at some moment.
No, no,
No?
my parents thought it was cute.
Oh, that's nice. That is and quite unusual, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
My
but
mother always told me to follow my dreams. My dad, when I started touring
Mhm.
and had the records out, he was alarmed that I wasn't going to be a scientist.
Well, you kind of became at some level with David when you were experimenting with industrial sounds, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
um, so then you went to Phoenix because you decided to go to Phoenix. I really don't know how that happened, but it didn't work out for you because Phoenix is not a place to have a recording studio, right? And then you decided to go back to LA. This was maybe in the early '90s, mid '90s, maybe.
Mid 90s.
Yes.
I left Maui in 1993. My son was having a whole lot of trouble in school, and I needed to
Oh,
get him into better schools.
uh-huh.
So I sold my part of the studio to Walter, and then moved the family to Phoenix, bought a house,
Mhm.
and I built a great big recording studio in Phoenix,
Yeah.
uh, but with a video stage too. It was a 12,000 square foot building,
Mhm, mhm,
but we only did small records and 2-car commercials, and
mhm.
that studio went under in 18 months.
Wow.
So the fellow that built the Maui studio and built my Phoenix studio owned an architectural firm in Los Angeles,
Yes.
and um, wanted to start a division to supply the technical materials to the studios. In other words, the console, the tape recorders,
Yeah.
the all the outboard gear, the design, the wiring, and the patch bay, and all that. And
Mhm.
so he reached out to me and said, you know, you're really good at this. Why don't you come to LA? Let's start a new division of the company, and
Yeah.
we'll do the technical design for studios, so we can do all-in-one studio packages. They built over 200 studios all around the world, and
Yeah.
so I moved to Los Angeles, and I was commuting between Phoenix and Los Angeles for the first
Mhm.
year,
Yeah.
but uh, so I was going to Los Angeles and meeting with these big studio clients and working on their rooms. My first client was Babyface, doing the monitor design for his studio, and
Mhm.
then 20th Century Fox film scoring stage, we did their renovation.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So so you got in touch into sound mixing or music recording for movies before you met DKL, right?
No, David was my first movie experience.
Really?
Uh, I designed some post-production movie studios,
Yeah.
but in fact, then he was a client, and I did the technical design for his studio because
Yeah.
our firm was the architectural firm building
Yeah.
his studio.
Hmm, hmm.
And in 1997, he decided that I was going to have to run the studio because I'm the only one that knew how it worked.
Hmm. And
So,
yeah, yeah.
so
I
he
remember.
made me a job offer
Hmm.
and hired me away from my own company.
Nice. And did he have like very specific and very capricious or very maybe unexplainable demands on the construction of his room? Like, I need this that doesn't have like this particular thing in this room that doesn't have like a real reason to be, at least not logically, but it needs to be here.
Um, he built some of the diffusers in the studio. He's got $100,000 wood shop next to the studio, and so he did a lot of the woodwork
Yeah,
in the
imagine.
studio. And uh, so he was very hands-on, but he relied on the design from Studio Bautan, the
Mhm.
architectural firm, for acoustic integrity.
Yeah, yeah. And his decisions by building the studio, did you agree with them? Were they like, I mean, because I know he likes to work with wood. I remember that he still continues working with wood, but
Oh yes.
but is all his decisions were like kind of, he seemed to know what he was doing, considering like building all the sound equipments and all the boards, I mean. And
All that was my decision.
uh-huh, okay, okay, great.
And I had to, he owned the console already.
Hmm, hmm.
That I had to build the studio around the console he
Yeah.
already had. It was a Euphonic CS 2000
Hmm.
and 56 channel. And so, but he designed all of the finish work in the studio,
Hmm.
chose the big thick red drapes, chose the fabric material that covered the walls. We had a 22.5-foot screen in the theater with JBL Cinema sound behind it. It was a true theater,
Was it
as well as a recording studio.
was it during the time of where he was producing and directing the Lost Highway?
The studio is in the same house,
The same house where
the Madison House.
wow.
So as soon as he stopped filming, we tore down about 75% of that house
Yeah.
and excavated back into the hillside for the studio,
Mhm.
because it went 46 feet back into the hill. And so that involved blasting rock out and excavating for the studio. So the house shell looks similar to what it did in the movie, but more modern.
Mhm, mhm. And what came first? Because I can be maybe losing track here. You went straight into producing Lux Vivens
Yes,
with Jocelyn Montgomery,
yes.
and this was yeah, this was before the DVD masterings, I guess. And and during that time also gradually you found out, because I think the process where you started working together on Blue Bob was during 98 till 2000, I think. and
Yes.
and and this album, I mean, all this happened like more or less happened everything at the same time, because everything was being worked gradually. So I noticed that, of course, a man who communicates like David Lynch, like he has a lot of like visual verbalizing kind of expressions, and maybe he doesn't own or have like the same professional specific language for music producing. Maybe he, of course, he learned through the way, but he has this way of expressing. Like, for example, when he says to the actors, like, "Give me more wind," when he's
Oh
directing.
yeah.
And how does this language works? How did you? How long did it take to actually find a common ground? Because I think this is a very, very maybe complicated thing.
Well, Lux Vivens took 6 months to make,
Hmm.
and in that time, David and I learned to work together.
Yeah.
And uh, so, yes, he doesn't have the technical knowledge, but he expresses a feeling that he wants
Yeah.
or a mood. And
Mhm.
for one song on Lux Vivens, he said, I want to echo and reverb on her voice to sound like she's in a canyon. And then he
Yeah.
said, a smooth black marble canyon. Well, there's no preset on the reverbs that says Black Marble Canyon. So
Black.
I had to experiment and invent a sound that fit that vision in his head.
That's
And when he said black marble, that told me it was very reflective. So I had to deal with a lot of early reflections. And uh, so I just experimented around running just her voice in solo.
Mhm.
And finally he goes, "That's it." So I stopped and saved it.
That's amazing. And probably, I mean, and I think there's this kind of great deal of, I mean, if there's something in common between you and David Lynch, is like there's this constant search, at least as I understand of what I've heard about your personal story, and listening to your music, and of course David's work. There's a common search for freedom. Am
Yes,
I correct, or am I bluffing?
you're correct, because we broke all the musical molds. I
Yeah,
mean, we invented new music,
yeah.
you
It's
know.
very, at least Lux Vivens doesn't sound like anything. It's still, I mean, it's been 20 years. It still sounds like outwardly, like it is 12th century's songs, and they sound like, I don't know, like it's incredible. It's so strange, and it transports you. It's I mean, of course, the way David works with sounds, it's always trying to make you visualize something in the same way
That's correct.
as when he speaks and when he describes something. He's always very visual, and also very, I have to say, textural. Like there's something about textures that
Yes.
he's always looking forwards. Like, uh, I mean, we'll be back into this, but I need to make this little jump here. Uh, when you work, like for example, mastering the DVDs for Blue Velvet and White at Heart and Fire Walk with Me and Eraserhead, and I was wondering, like, the sound always I mean, there's something about the sounds that even in Dune, I remember that you didn't work on Dune,
No.
but it's sadly, but it's there's this thing about textures that makes you feel that there's something happening very close to your ear,
Yes.
and it's and it's very subtle, but at the same time, as it gets closer, it's very like intense, even though
Yes.
it's not very loud. uh, how do you reach that, like, how do you fabricate that?
Well, that's a years long story.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, it was strictly through experimentation and David telling me what he wanted,
Mhm, mhm,
and uh, he did not run the console or the studio. On movie mixes, I always gave him 8 faders to play with, so he could alter the balance of things himself, and we'd work together on the board. But uh, texturally, it was all power of suggestion. He said what he wanted mood wise, and then it was up to me to come up with elements to fill that need.
well, it's and and do you also like work on Foley, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then what is there anything like um something, as you know, as Lynch viewers, like we will never imagine you're using this to create the sound?
Those are secrets.
There's no celery.
No, we dropped melons off the roof
Oh, there's a
for
lot of head.
punches for Mullholland Drive.
Oh, head bashing. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
ah, that that hurts. Yes, that's.
Yeah. And then I'd put
Oh.
it through the subwoofer so it would had a chest impact on the audience. People would go, "Oh."
It feels like he's not gonna be right in the morning. Like it's this so terrible. And and so there's so you found like um did he ever try to pursue you to try meditation to reach this level of like intuitive communication with him?
Yes, I started meditating in the year 2000. So the first few years, I wasn't a meditator, but David finally convinced me to try it, and I enjoyed it.
Good. That's wonderful. And so there's something also about the voices. I mean, the voices are also very whispering like, even though they're like, even though that there are maybe people talking in open spaces, it feels intimate. Is it like also a conscious decision, or is it like is there anything else am I missing here, like the way the voices are recorded, it is very unusual, I think.
Now, are you talking in movies or film? I
uh,
mean, movies or music?
Movies, actually.
Okay, so he always wants it to be from the camera perspective. For instance, there's a scene in The Straight Story
Yeah.
where Alvin's tractor breaks down, and it's a long shot,
Yeah.
and uh, a fellow on a big tractor comes up to help him get restarted, and we're 250 feet away from the camera.
Yeah.
So I had one boom mic facing the tractors at the camera position. And so you can hear that they're talking, but you can't understand what they're saying, which you
Ah.
wouldn't at that distance.
Yeah, it's like the nightclub scene in Fire Walk with Me, right? When they're like speaking out loud, but you cannot listen to them. There's something about you need to hear that they're speaking, and you need to hear some keywords,
Right.
but it's mostly about the noise.
That's correct. And then on Inland Empire, we used a lot of lavalier microphones
Yeah.
taped inside the clothing of the actors. I had 8 channels of lavaliers. So there's a scene with Laura Dern approaching a house, and she's from about 200 feet away, and you can hear her voice as if she were standing next to you, because I had a lavalier mic on her. It wasn't just the boom.
That is, wow, I haven't thought of that, because excuse my ignorance, but I thought that I mean, in a very, I mean, it doesn't sound dubbed, but I couldn't even think like how's possible this could be recorded this way, and apparently it was as simple as hidden microphones in the clothing.
Yes.
um, wow.
And then he hates dubbing.
Yeah. Well,
He likes the production sound.
mm-hmm.
And in one scene with Laura, her microphone buzzed because of radio interference, and I said, we're going to have to retake for sound, and he says, no, that's money in the bank.
Money in the bank.
He said, I love it. So we kept the static.
Yeah, he loves static. I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a sad thing that you weren't called. I mean, there's no mastering for example, this TV show, this comedy show he made in 1992, right after Twin Peaks. What was the name?
On the Air.
On the Air, yes, On the Air, because there's a lot of sound play and static, and there's a lot of playful things with sound. I think if there's a mastering of that, it would be fantastic if you're in there.
Yeah, the pilot is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yes, this is just non-stop craziness.
Yeah, it's a big crescendo.
Yes. So Blue Bob, you were talking about the way voices are recorded in Blue Bob. There's like there was like you were being dizzy as you were recording your own voice, which actually really good singing voice, I have to say. But it's
Thank
also
you.
like it's like you're imposing like a character as well.
He was directing me in the headphones.
Yeah,
he was on the talkback mic telling me what he wanted.
Yeah, it was like kind of. I mean, am I wrong to say that Blue Bob is like a concept album?
Yes, it is.
because it's like a whole noir story, told by different details. I mean, it's not just it's not like a story, like a straight line story, but it's like there's something about that. It's telling you by details about that there's a divorce, there's crime, there's mystery and stuff like that. But the main character, which probably is Bob, is like, sounds like a tough guy. Um, was something like, uh, did he tell you about something about Bob?
No, he just would ask for a certain attitude. And
Uh-huh.
for some songs, he wanted no attitude. He says, you're a workman. You're just going to deliver this straight. And then he gave me his director's microphone or megaphone, and I sang through the megaphone into a $10,000 microphone. And that was for like Rolling Down with You and City of Dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And he would have me set up a whole bunch of delays and feed those into my headphones. So he tried to get me to screw up or to break rhythm by handing me all these delays. But I learned to listen to the voice in my head instead of what was in the headphones, and I got around it. So we quit that device. But for 4 songs, that's how those were recorded.
I don't know to say. I don't know if that was a lot of fun, or a lot of pain and frustration.
No, it was fun. The whole record was a lot of fun.
And wow, that's wonderful. And I was and there was a gap between I mean, because the record was it was recorded between 98 and 2000, but the album was released in 2003, maybe
2.
2002. Yeah. And there was a 2-year gap, but
We were selling it on davidlynch.com
mhm,
from the year 2000 on.
mhm,
And then we got hooked up with a French record company,
yeah.
and they wanted to release it in 13 countries in Europe and Scandinavia. And so we made a deal, and we did a launch concert at the Olympia Theater in Paris.
Mhm, mhm. And also you had like an extra push from releasing Mulholland Drive as well,
Yes.
and being like recognized internationally by the critics, and it was a very strange thing. And also, well, you have in hand your amazing on-screen ex-wife, which was
Naomi Watts.
yeah, that was
Have you seen the video?
yes, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Which is like
Well, it's funny. We had the rhythm track done, and David didn't have any words for it. He wrote all the words. And so one morning I walked in the studio, and he says he had a legal pad and a pen on my console, and he says, write down everything you lost in your divorces,
Mhm.
because I've been married 4 times. And so I wrote a list of 36 things, and that became Thank You, Judge.
That was wow. And and the guy in the mask, of course, is David, right?
Yes, he
Yes.
made the mask.
Well, yeah, yeah. It looks like one of his drawings.
That's why.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess you had a lot of fun. And during those sessions and recording the music for Mulholland Drive, and because you recorded some tracks, but you also supervised the orchestra in Prague here.
um, David didn't supervise the orchestra. Angelo came with us, and
Angelo.
he was the composer and
Yeah,
assistant conductor.
yeah.
David, in fact, I'm going to publish it on Facebook today. David was in the studio and had comments about overall balance. He liked a whole lot of bass. We had 12 basses in the orchestra, 90 pieces altogether. And
Mm.
normally you have 4 basses. And so the whole mood was big and heavy.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and slow,
that's what he
as he
wanted.
tends to like, of course. Uh, And what? Excuse me again, my ignorance. What was your? I know you recorded like directly songs, but did you have anything to do with the orchestra by being here, or you were here because you wanted to witness it, witness the
No, I
place?
recorded the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
I took a Pro Tools rig
Yeah,
with me to Prague because they
yeah.
didn't have Pro Tools yet,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, uh, and patched it into the console, and then recorded everything digitally to Pro Tools.
Was this before it was considered a pilot, or it was when it was considered to become a movie?
A movie. We never did the score except on synthesizers for the pilot.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Is there any version that could be released with a synthesizer version?
There are some videotapes floating around of the pilot.
Mm.
It might even be on YouTube. I'm not sure. David hates the pilot,
Oh.
so he doesn't like to talk about it, and he's very sad that those tapes exist in the world,
Oh.
because he felt when they told him to cut the pilot from 2 hours to 88 minutes, he felt he ruined the story, and he didn't care if they picked it up or not. And the
Oh.
whole thing languished for 15 months. And the French came up with money, Studio Canal,
Mm-hmm.
they came up with money to finish it as a film.
Yeah.
And David said, well, that's a nice idea, but I don't have any ideas.
Uh-huh.
So it sat for another 3 months. And one Friday night after meditation, he came upstairs to the studio and he said, call Gay, that was his assistant, Gay Pope, tell her she has to work this weekend. I've got an ending. So his assistant came in for Saturday and Sunday, and he wrote the whole ending of the movie. And then Monday morning, we called the French and said, you're on.
And during that process as well, you got to work with this force of nature called Rebecca del Rio. Was it like, how did you find this incredible woman?
Her agent brought her to meet David,
It is.
hoping that we would make an album with her. And uh, within 10 minutes of meeting her, David said, I hear you're a singer. Sing something. So she stood up in the studio and started to sing Llorando in Spanish.
Yeah.
And David says, no, 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 wait, in there. And I had a microphone set up with a nice hall reverb on it. And she went in the booth, put on headphones, and sang what you hear in the movie. We knew her 10 minutes. And David wrote her into the movie because of that.
It's just first take.
First take.
God damn it. I mean, that first take makes you cry. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
the characters cry, the audience cries, everyone cries. And what a outstanding force of nature. And
Yeah. I'm working on a Rebecca Del Rio song right now.
amazing.
Yeah, a new one.
I saw a video of you playing with her on stage, like from last year, I think.
Twin Peaks Festival.
Oh, yeah. And you're working with her in a new song.
Yes.
What's wonderful. And damn it. Yeah, my head collides. Um, so you mentioned in an interview back in 2013 that at least during that time, you and David were about to finish a second album.
Yes. We had it about 3/4 finished.
Yeah.
And the first album went bad because our relationship with the record company went to hell.
Oh,
And they blocked David from selling it in the United States and sued him.
damn it.
So he cut loose that record, and because it was painful for him. But we had a second record in production.
Mhm.
And then I got the brilliant idea to buy 20 acres in Northern California and build my own studio. So I left David, and we never finished it. I did mix and master 2 or 3 songs from it,
Mhm.
and I have a small single CD called Freak Show with 2 songs from the second album on it.
And would you like to eventually get together and finish it and say, like, let's get to work, let's finish this?
I think it's too much water under the bridge.
Oh, okay, that's good.
It's been too many years.
Yeah. um and from all the movies you did, the remix, I mean, doing like 5.1 remix sound for movies for a person who actually, as far as I know, he doesn't like surround sound. And how do you do it?
Well, David had a 10% rule. He said only 10% of the sound goes in the surrounds, and he doesn't want to distract from the picture in front. And so I put atmospheres and ambiences in the surrounds. But in the straight story, he let me drive a car through the theater. Right before the woman hits the deer, this car comes flying by and then drives right out of frame. So I drove the car through the theater from the left front to the right rear. It disappears. And he loved that. He thought that was really something. But generally, he discouraged playing with the surrounds. Now, here's a funny thing. On Blue Velvet, when I was remixing that, we were missing some elements.
Yeah.
And including the night sounds for when Jeffrey and Sandy are walking and planning to get into Dorothy's apartment. So it's a night scene. And I had a library of crickets that Dave recorded on the set of the straight story. So I put crickets in it. And he walks in the room to check the scene. And he goes, "What's that sound?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Those are day crickets. We need night crickets."
Oh, damn it.
And he knew the difference. And so
he grew up in the woods, so of course.
I put up another DAT tape from when he was in Iowa, and he says, "That's it right there. Those are night crickets."
Well, he grew up in the woods, so he must know.
That's true too. That's true too.
And what was the most? I mean, from all the movies you had to remaster and everything, which wasn't like a beloved process by David, what was the one you had the most fun?
Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart. Well, there's a lot of violence. Like, sounds like expressively not realistic.
Yes, it's theatrical.
Yeah, it's very theatrical. The way the punching sounds, they sound like so 1950s. Maybe there's something about that. It sounds even the gore sounds like I don't know, like purposely like artificial, but it sounds, but so much that it sounds like, oh, this is actually, they're looking for this.
Well, it makes it larger than life.
Yeah.
It drives it home with much more severity.
Oh, yeah. It's about, it's a very severe movie. Now that you say it, yes, severe is the right word, the right adjective. And and what else? Yeah. You also mentioned that you were working and you were doing a lot of business doing sound design for video games.
Not a lot. I did some, but I don't understand the engine, the audio engine for video games. They have very little real estate set aside for sound. And I was making these great big soundscapes, and we didn't get along because they thought I was making them too big and not leaving enough for vocals and sound effects and things like that. So that didn't work out.
So apparently it's a different language that you don't get along with.
Yeah. Well, I'm used to movies where you can do anything.
And among like digital plugins and working with sound software and then vintage gear, where do you trace the line like is it like an everyday discussion, like having all these resources and having vintage things and more uh, having plugins?
Well, I have an awful lot of hardware, rack gear, compressors, limiters, equalizers, echo units, delays um, that I use. And I'm a Waves artist, so they endorse me, and I've got all the plugins they make.
Mm-hmm.
So I use a combination of plugins and hardware when I'm mixing. In films, I mix mostly in Pro Tools, but in music, I mix on the console.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use Pro Tools mixing capabilities on music. I have a 40 channel digital console, and I use that.
Mm-hmm. 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 And oh, I'm sorry. Uh, and is there any future project that you have in like in pocket for with David, or is something at least theatrical or in movies that you might be working on?
Well, I've mixed 24 feature films now and 13 shorts. Last year, I mixed 4 features and 3 shorts. This year, I've got a film coming in next week from England
Mm-hmm.
to mix in surround and stereo. And it just keeps going on. The people see the films and they like what they hear. And then when it comes time to produce their own, they call me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you ever like is the kind of person David Lynch that you can talk casually and talking on the phone like how is it going and stuff like that, or is like a very most private person?
Well,
Um,
he's a very private person, but I call him every year on his birthday,
mhm,
and we just talk about stuff.
yeah,
And he usually likes to talk about painting
yeah,
and music because he's still making music. And
and yeah,
so and then he wants to know how my studio's working, and so we just trade stories.
mhm,
One day when we were working on Mullholland Drive or something,
mhm.
he turned to me and he says, "You know, we know more about each other than our wives do."
Well, something happens when you start mixing mining equipment to create percussions. There's something that happens maybe that can't be understood by other people.
True.
And do you sometimes like do you ever like even though you talk with them like once a year, it's like, hey, shouldn't we like go and like jam a little bit, like play along? uh or is like he just likes to talk like casually about the weather and cars?
Yeah, he does talk about the weather.
Yeah.
Uh, no, we just have a casual conversation. I don't think we'll work together again. He put no stars in Twin Peaks season 3, The Return.
Yeah.
So I got a royalty check from that, and it was a good bump for
Yeah.
Rebecca and I
Yeah.
to have that song out.
Hmm.
And
Episode 10, right?
pardon?
Episode 10, I think.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Mm. And
You've studied.
I just liked the thing. I'm sorry. No, I'm not such a nerd. So there's something else am I forgetting before I let you go. Is there anything you would like to do that you haven't tried yet?
Good heavens. Uh, I've performed all over the world. I've uh, made over 400 records. Uh, I just like to go to work. It's every project is a new challenge,
Hmm.
which is good. Keeps your mind active,
Yeah.
and uh, so I can't say there's anything I have a burning desire to do that I haven't done. But every new project presents a new blank page in the open book.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I am having a blank moment right now.
That's all right.
Uh, So let me recheck all the things that I have in my head right now. And do you? What's your? Let's talk about your favorite movies. What are your favorite movies?
Oh, I just went through them on Facebook. 10 movies in 10 days. My
Oh,
favorite my favorite film of all time is 2001.
uh-huh. I mean,
It's just the perfect movie to me.
I mean, in sound, like it's mostly silence and music. It's
It's very abstract.
it's a music clip. It's a long music clip.
And my second favorite movie is Mullholland Drive because I'm married to that film,
Oh, I'm sure.
and I had 5 pieces of music in it myself,
Yeah.
and plus recording the score and mixing the film and doing co sound designing with David.
Yeah.
And but then I love High Noon, an old 1950s Gary
Yeah,
Cooper
High Noon.
Western.
Yeah. It's. I even know the name. It was released in Argentina. A la hora señalada.
Ah,
High Noon. It's like yeah. It's yeah, classic Western. Yeah.
are you from Argentina?
I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina, but I've been living in Czech Republic the past almost 3.5 years.
I see. Well, I built a film mixing studio in Buenos Aires in the 90s.
Holy,
It's called Symphony.
holy shit! Is it still
Daniel Feinsilber is the
there? I mean,
owner of it.
is it still there?
I don't know. I haven't been back there.
Wow.
I've lost touch with Daniel.
What's his name again?
Daniel Feinsilber.
Daniel Feinsilver. I'm gonna ask
He
my
mixes
dad. My
movies.
dad is a musician, so I'm gonna ask him.
Okay. The
So,
studio is called Symphony, and it was right in town. And I stayed in the old town, and it was just a beautiful city, a beautiful experience.
wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a very. I mean, Buenos Aires can be very much a noir city.
Yes,
Uh,
I agree.
it's a very and also very changing, strange place. There's no like a common note. It's very chaotic.
Oh,
And I mean, especially through the 90s. Um, so thank you so much for your time. Um, I'm very happy to have the nerve to actually write you, and you actually were interested. Um,
thank you.
thank you so much for your time, and I hope to hear more from you, and to get to know more about you publicly, or at least it gets more widely released, whatever you do. And yeah, I really hope to hear more from you. And
Thank you so much, Santiago.
thank you so much for your time. Uh, all my love to you. Uh,
Likewise.
okay. Have a good day, and have a good lunch.
Very good. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye now.